Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track for an act named DÆmons titled Buch IV Vergangenheit featuring Mohini Dey. And if we switch over to here, there's a few things I want to note before we get into this. First of all, apparently regarding the song's title, it means past as in past, present, future in German and is a fourth track in their instrumental series titled Buch IV, which means Buch IV, and the first three parts are on my album Streams of Variation. So they've released some material in the past. Apparently there'll be more to come in the series as well, including a new album or EP that's going to be coming out at some point. It's a one-man band with Steven at the helm, and they do like jazz and metal, and apparently they had the opportunity to work with a famous jazz bassist titled Mohini Dey, who is the feature within this track. And they've worked with Willow Smith, Steve Vai, Marco Miniman, Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater, as well as Jason Richardson, and many more apparently, so they're doing quite well for themselves. They also collaborated with the Brazilian horn section, which includes saxophone from Weber Marley, trombone from Felipe Coelho, and trumpet with Bruno Brito. And so we're going to be listening through this track with all these features from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. We're also going to be scoring this track on a variety of musical criteria from 0 to 10 or 1 to 10. But let's get into it. Let's go. That'll be at the end. Fascinating immediately. Just the atmosphere with the call and response between the keys and then the kind of the whooshes on the side. The reverb tails and that are fascinating. Or delay tails. Fantastic solo section, actually. It's incredibly busy, but they managed to find places for things. so much tension. It's great to watch them trading off with each other whilst trying to sort of support each other at the same time, you know? That would have felt good to get. That was clean. Going down into that range like that is wild, dude. Really make the most of that second string bass, you know. Grace is developing this late stage as well. Great use of the stereo field. Oh, slap, nice. What coming in there. I mean, this is the epitome of why you get professionals to help you out with parts you want to make extra special, right? I mean, that was crazy. They just flew by. That was phenomenal. For context, that was as long as Master of Puppets by Metallica, and this track seemed a hell of a lot shorter. It really did, and I love Master of Puppets by Metallica. I'm just saying, this was a really smooth ride. I'm gonna get my scores sorted out for this track, and then we'll talk about it more in the conclusion section. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named DÆmons, Buch IV or Buch IV Vergangenheit featuring Mohini Dey. This track was an absolute pleasure to listen through. I think I gave it an overall score of 8.8 out of 10, which is one of the highest scores that I've given to a song. Part of why I've given it such a high score is for the reasons I'm going to talk about in this section, but it's also simply to preface because it's just a phenomenal display of technicality, songwriting, and musicianship. It's an incredibly intricate, wonderfully interwoven experience that it just takes you through this effervescent universe that it creates. There is literally no need for a vocalist in this. There is no need for storytelling or hand-holding within this. As an instrumental, it is utterly sublime. I want to first of all give a shout out to all the musicians within this track that I mentioned in the intro section, and like everyone did a great job, whether they were on guitars or bass or drums or either the brass section there, the keys at the start. You know, some keys, some synths there going on, and we had a simple sort of like introduction there where there was even some effects chains on it, and then we had some kind of whooshes and sort of like kind of light melodic percussive stuff going on. And then we inevitably ended up in a track which is so full of vigor and so full of life with all the different ideas and concepts we had throughout. It was through composed. It was wonderful how seamless the transitions were. So many different chapters within it. Trying to sort of decide on one sort of main riff or motif that we had there is tricky to do because there was a lot of variety within the track and the way it was written and performed there. We were incredibly attentive to what each section needed in regards to how the instruments played with one another. I thought the guitar parts, all the different leads we had there was so many, like just the start of the track with the clean picking, kind of like alternate picking sliding down the neck like that with the delay tails on that, just instantly, without even really playing notes, was fascinating. But then we get into it further. We have these wonderful lead lines there. We have some chords occasionally. We have slides and legatos and, well, very conservative and friendly and personable elements there. Like, we tried to create a lead section there that played neatly alongside everything else that was going on with the keys, the drums, the bass, and like rhythm sections, primarily because I feel like we understood that Mohini Dey, DÆmons and Mohini, they could both play. They could both play. And I feel like the bass was stunning. We explored the fretboard incredibly well with a mixture of different fingerstyle and sort of slap techniques there, slap and pop. We were rigorous in our focus on providing a thoroughly and engaging experience through the variety of different bass lines. Like, we stuck with the root notes that we needed to, but we were just so explorative. We didn't just stay with the roots. We went through the triads. We were modular with our approaches. There were some like even some bass leady techniques where we played some little intricate melodies that managed to just sort of sneak around what was going with the key triads or the extensions that were going on with those synth parts. Or we were able to sort of interweave within what the guitar was doing and be able to have ourselves in the low and mid range and be an extra layer anywhere we wanted to. That is the beauty of a 6-string bass. We go down into the low end and it's thunderous. It's so heavy sounding, but it never got too ferocious. And I think there's this wonderment that comes from this track primarily because of how much it doesn't want to establish itself as a certain vibe. It's almost like the entire theme of this track is curiosity. We talk about the meaning of, it doesn't mean past isn't past, present, future. And if that's us looking back on the past, we've got a very colorful way of interpreting it. And I kind of enjoy that because you typically either get fond memories or you get sad ones, or occasionally you get, I don't know. This is a fourth element where it's like, let's figure it out. And we almost sound like the bassist, guitarist, the drum parts with a wide variety of kick, snare, and hi-hat grooves. all the main fours, quarters, eighths, triplets, and sixteenths handled. We efficiently and effortlessly navigate around different time signatures. There was some polyrhythms and polymetric stuff going on there. Lots of different buzz rolls and flams and all sorts of tricky transitions and fills and so ghost notes, and great work dynamically with the kit. Fluently navigated this really tricky, really complicated song in a way where no matter what the bass was playing, no matter what the guitar was playing, we either managed to niche with them to sort of have a great sense of groove throughout, or we, had our own identity and allowed things to float. And what I mean by the polymeter and polysodalite, the polymeter stuff or the polyrhythmic stuff, is that we weren't limiting ourselves to simply having the drums do that. There were some kind of crazy situations where the kind of bass or guitars would go apart from each other and then come back, and we would have a sense of unity. I think a big part of that was when we had the brass come in with the saxophones and the trombones, trumpet, and stuff like that. We understood at that point that we had more sort of like a core motif. I suppose that the brass sort of instantiated when they would repeat that sort of main line, and everything else would kind of dance around it. It was like we'd reached the finish line and we were celebrating our awareness of what the past was and our interpretation of figuring that out. I enjoy that. And it's like, even though we had so many really wonderful riff ideas throughout the first half of the track, having the brass at that second point kind of let you know, hey, this is a new fun thing, this is interesting, let's have a good time with this, let's enjoy it, etc. Let's just sort of, it was a brightness, a sparkle in there at the beginning with the relative kind of like minimalism of, compared to later on with the instrumentality of it. Again, of just those keys being played with those really, really cool chords. And then like the response between that and then, it's not like we didn't have call and response later on with the guitar or bass parts. They would come together then. And it's not like we didn't have that in other parts, but just we developed this track and it got so much bigger as we went on. And it just, again, we had so many chapters within this. And at the halfway point when the trumpets came in, it did sort of ground us a little bit. But again, that was almost like we were building up until that point. And it surprised me even though I knew it was coming. I think the variety of different chords and note choices, the chromaticisms we had there, the really kind of the sense of freedom within those lead sections there, not wanting to necessarily stick to the limitations of major minor scales and stuff like that, left us in a position where I feel like this is more each musician's own interpretation of the concept of the track within limitations. I feel like the brass was more sort of supportive in that regard. And then to be fair, the drums were more sort of just trying to sort of remain interesting whilst keeping a sense of pace and groove through the track and giving something for the bass guitarists to go along to when they weren't sort of coming back and forth between it. But ultimately, I'd say we were exploring different ideologies there, different methods, interpretations, and we kind of came to an understanding at the end as things sort of came down from that. And ultimately, I feel like as a listener going along this journey with them, it was very rewarding. It was not only interesting to listen to them do their things and play the different sort of rhythm and lead sections to explore other different ideas, but it just sounded great. And they can really play their instruments. And clearly they are proficient. And and within the first minute of hearing them all together, it puts your mind at ease about any sort of, hey, are there going to be any sort of situations where I'm taken out of the mood by the sound of, by any limitations in playing ability or anything like that. You just don't have that here. This has probably been quite a long review. I feel like I've been saying quite a lot. What I will finish with, though, is that I feel confident in listening to more of their material, primarily because I feel like it's very stimulating. And I don't mean that as in like it's a high IQ or low IQ music. What I mean is that there's just so much love put into this song. It's experimental and a bit progressive and stuff, but it's not trying to be better than you. It's not pretentious. It's not trying to get you to think too hard about it. It's just simply giving you a lot of different samples and flavors to try. And it's not trying to tell you what you should think about it. It's simply inviting you to enjoy it. And I feel like this is the kind of way that you should approach a lot of more technical music like this. You should, if you want to encourage more people to listen to it, it needs to be accessible. I feel like this track was. There were no uncomfortable moments. There was no filler. It was wonderful. It was an incredible track, and just the studio recording, mixing, and mastering was the icing on the cake. There, it's down there flawless. I loved it. I loved it. I don't think they could have really done anything to improve it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10 is like the best production I've ever heard in my life. This is getting pretty close to that. I love how everything was balanced. There was no flaws within the leveling. Things were lovingly EQ'd. Music surrounding you in the headphones. Lots of stuff swirling around, patterns to enjoy. No resonant frequencies. No resonant frequencies there. Nice to know without pumping. So bus compression limit 2 was handled, and there was dynamic range, and yeah, everyone did well. Thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named DÄmons titled Buch IV Vergangenheit featuring Mohini Dey, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show us some love via the various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.